Alright, now we're going into a production where we're going to take this and we're going to get it print ready. So, the first thing I do is Shift D to duplicate it. I move it off to the side. Jump to 7 on the number pad. And I create a box. Add mesh cube. I'll take this cube and I'll make it really big. And I'll take these parts apart. So I'll take them apart first so I know how big I need the box. R on the keyboard allows you to scale this. I'm just going to scale it like that. W allows me to move it. And just get it to about right here. Okay, so let's jump into the other view to make sure it's tall enough. So 1 or 3, good. Back to 7. Now, I'm going to put this one here. And I'll just hit Tab. Jump into this point right here and go Mesh, Snap, Cursor to Selected. Hit Tab, then go to Object, Transform, Origin to 3D Cursor. That perfectly places it here. Okay. Shift D to duplicate it. Again, I'll do that, but on this other side. Now, I'm showing you this because it's been a lifesaver. Sure, this is kind of a overkill for this little ball joint, but in a production run where you have, like, let's say 13 parts and you need to cut them and they're all different, this is a really nice little jig to make. So I call this my little 3D Boolean cutter jig. And here's how it kind of works. Let's say I need to perfectly snap these to the center of this. Well, that's really easy. I just copy Y, Shift C, or Control C, sorry. Control C, copy that number. And then here, this is already centered within this part. If it's not, you can go Object, Transform, Origin to Geometry, and it will basically snap it to the middle of that part. And then I just copy it to that. So this will perfectly snap it in the center of that Boolean cut. Another thing that's really kind of cool is, let's say I name this one 0, 1 back, 0, 1 front. Okay. This one and this one need to be perfectly aligned with each other. So Control C, take this one, Control V, bam. So now they are perfectly on top of each other. I take this big huge hot mess and just marquee select it. Yeah, mouse, drag. So Shift D, right click. Now I have 2. If I delete these 2, I now have the ability to cut this one to make the left and this one to make the right. And if you look, this one's called 0, 1 back and this one's called 0, 1 front, 0, 1. But at least it's close within that range of, I know 0, 1 is my Boolean. Okay, do not, I repeat, do not cut without saving. Save your work. Blender has a bad habit of, if you have 2 parts at once being cut, sometimes it crashes. Trust me. So I'm going to cut each one by itself. This one, I'm going to go in here and go to the wrench, Boolean cut, difference. This one's back, I believe. Nope, wait, front. There we go. Boolean, difference, front, Boolean, difference, back, Boolean, Perfect. So now I'll apply all those. Good. Then I'll take these and join these two together. And I'll take these and join these together. Okay, jumping into a different view. Raising this above the box. Jumping into the other view. This one I'll rotate 90 degrees, or negative 90. This one's going to be probably a positive 90. Oh, join them together. Okay, you can tell I haven't done this before. Yeah, it's almost predictable about the 90 degrees, negative 90. It's a lot of things are predictable. Okay, so hold Alt, click, drag. We got the ability to rotate around. We've done that before. Z on the keyboard. Tab. Now this is another nifty trick. So if I highlight something that's flat on the inside of this, like this point right here is dead on the edge, we are going to go to Mesh, Snap, Cursor to Selected, Tab, Object, Transform, Origin to 3D Cursor, and then I'll take Z and go 0. That will drop it to 0 on the world. I know now that is a print ready piece. So again, point, Mesh, Snap, Cursor to Selected, Tab, Object, Transform, Origin to 3D Cursor, 0. Notice I don't have any hotkeys. I haven't used any hotkeys. Reason for that. So don't flame me, you Blender heads. Okay. I never show students hotkeys. I always use menus. I leave it up to them and their obligation to use the hotkeys. So just in case you want to use those hotkeys, Shift Control S, it's right there, right? And the Transform tab doesn't have one, but you can set one for that in the user preferences under here. Got all kinds of things that you can change, and you can select and make hotkeys for things. Again, that's on you, and I try not to teach that right off the bat. Hotkeys are pretty bad for new students. They find them anyway. I always try to give them the menus at first. Let them kind of explore the hotkey thing. Trust me, I use the hotkeys myself, but to learn Blender, you should probably find the menu first and then use the hotkey. Just a tip. So I hopped into a top view. Here I'm just going to arrange these pieces. So Tab, highlight one vertice, and hit L. L allows you to highlight the shell. And Tab allows you to jump back and forth between object mode. Tab allows you to also go into component mode, L. And I'm just getting these closer together. Alright, there's my ball and socket joint. I'll join these together and I'll export them as still. I'll put them somewhere. And then I'll use a program called NetFab. I use the basic variation because I'm just hobby novice and I haven't found a need for Pro yet. I totally support this program. I say, hey, if you want Pro, get Pro. I haven't found a need to use Pro yet, but again, I don't know. So project, just make sure it's on new. Right click, add part. They do have a variation for the web. I would highly suggest downloading the basic version. It's so much better. Here's ball joint. Open that up. I always do this religiously, so click on it, hit the little red cross, automatic repair, hit execute, hit apply, yes, then right click, export part, still. Here's my ball joint. Notice it catches stuff like degenerate triangles. Okay, that's big when you're using booleans. It'll find all those. Boolean is an awful form of modeling. I only use it because it's really easy to do it with 3D print. As far as, like, let's say game creation assets or anything like that, or topology, nice topology, you never want to use Boolean. But here, perfect to use Booleans, just as long as you repair all the crap that it comes off. Okay, last but not least, you would slice this. Now I have my own INI for slicer that I share with students in my classroom, but I would say, you know, you would have your own slicer defaults. One of the things I find for 3D print that I'll just kind of put out there, so for solid chunk matter that you're going to kind of tool on a little bit, if you're going to tool on it or it's going to move around a little bit, I use a 0.3 fill density. And if it's something that's just going to be there aesthetically to look at, I use like a 0.15. Let's see. So my extruder is 5, but I actually knock it down to 0.45 sometimes to get a better extrusion ratio. I find that there's a 0.5 variation there too. Trust me, I've been through a lot of little parts, putting them together. That works out quite well. So if you were working with 0.35, I knock it down to 0.25. Okay? Or wait, yeah, you get the idea. So 0.5 from that. Now, that's within my humble opinion. It works great for my printer, whatever you have for your printer. I'm just giving you maybe a heads up that you can actually play around with this number. It's not written in stone, and sometimes if you want to fill in walls that are really thin, you can lower this number and it will fill in those thin wall things. Okay, just a heads up. So I'll just add this into the mix, ball joint, and just export G-code. And that is how you produce a print-ready part from the complete workflow from Blender. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed.